live. I didn't mean to, but we're going live.
That's okay.
I hit the wrong button, ladies and gentlemen. So we're live from the Heartland a little bit earlier than I thought that we would be
That's
live
okay.
from
We're
the
on time.
Heartland. But that's okay. I think we are perfectly on time. Nice to have all of you here. I didn't get everything set just the way I wanted it, but hey, that's okay. Nika, I'm getting a little bit of a click on your end. I don't know if your microphone's hitting something.
Nope.
Okay. I'm not sure what it is.
Nope.
We'll work our way through it. Well, folks, today I'm very happy to. What is that click?
Yeah, I hear it too. I don't know. My phone is not moving. I am on the phone, but it's
Okay.
not moving.
So it's not on your end.
I hope not.
Let's see. Okay, it seems like it's gone. Ladies and gentlemen, these are the. It might be on this end. I don't know what it is.
I don't think
is
it's mine.
clicking?
I hope it's not mine.
Let me turn down. Oh, I know what the problem is. That should be much better right there.
I'll turn down my volume. Maybe that's it.
I think we're doing okay now. We tried to get in early, but hey. But anyway, folks, here we are. And we'll deal with this. Hopefully it'll just go away. Nika Domi is an author. She's a financial expert. She does a lot of work in the stock market, so maybe she can talk a little bit about that today. But mainly, her interest is in human psychology and human interpersonal relationships and socially distance. This is a great time to take advantage of that and work on your social communication. She's got a new book coming out, as you saw on the screen, and we're going to talk about that, and we're going to talk about just being people. And sometimes when you're spiritual, you forget about things, and you know that you forget you're in a real world. And with that, we're going to talk about all those kind of things with psychology expert Nika Domi. Welcome to the program, Nika.
And thank you so much for having me. I've been a huge fan of the show since I was just telling Jeffrey that I've been watching the show since he had like about 7,000 subscribers. And here we are a few years later. The message is just getting better and better. The puzzle keeps being put together very well. And I am just happy to be part of this community. So thanks everyone for having me over. And we will learn a little bit today about social psychology, which I thought was a little bit overlooked in our spiritual advancement community. So we'll talk about that and how it can help us kind of fill in the blanks and fill in the spots that we're missing to become real masterminds and become examples to others and have more of a smooth flowing life outside of just our little worlds that we have within our home, especially now within our homes and with the situation that we have right now in the world. So it's time to really get to know ourselves and each other better, how we operate as humans, and that will help us even to understand the situations that are going on around us. So maybe I can sorry, John.
No, I'm just thinking, I bet you could go to the grocery store, you could go to Costco or any place like that, or just go out anywhere public if you still can. And you can look at people and just watch people, watch the way they're acting, watch their way they're reacting, the way they're interacting. And I'll bet you could, with pretty good accuracy, on a scale of 1 to 10, rate where those people are as far as their understanding of psychology, as far as their understanding of how the mind works, and as far as your understanding of interrelating with other people. Because until you can master your own mind, then you're really, really in trouble. And I think the people that are most in trouble now, most worried now, are the people that haven't mastered their minds.
Right. And I think that definitely we are in a good spot, all the listeners here and people that have been learning and taking care of their spirit and taking care of their minds. And I think that those people do have that kind of a leverage, and the ones that have just been kind of ignoring their inner self and that kind of attainment, they may be a lot more prone to being stressed out and a lot more anxiety happening, and they just don't really know how to deal with it. So then that kind of flows into why I decided to write this book, and the book's not done yet, so I'm on the last chapter. And it's really funny because I recently realized, okay, my book title that I've picked is Person to Person, and I picked that about a year ago when I started writing this book. And now, with this virus being spread person to person, I hope that my book will, have everyone spreading knowledge person to person more than this virus is spreading. So
Absolutely. And we do
it's a
spread,
bit
we
of an
can spread
ironic
positive
title.
things person to person.
Exactly. So it's not out yet, so that's a key point. So where am I coming from? I've studied social psychology for the past 5 years. I actually graduated last year from McMaster University, which is a university here in Toronto area in Canada. This is where I am. I'm here currently in the Toronto region, and I come from Poland originally, so I was born there. I moved to Canada when I was about 12 years old, so I do have that perspective of being in Europe, very closely connected because I still travel there a lot. And I live here in Canada in North American lifestyle. So I see the changes that have been happening. I see the different relations, the different dynamics that are from both sides of the world. And it helped me in my studies in the social psychology. I've also done a minor in religious studies in the same university, which really connected everything so well. And that's when I realized, hey, wait a second, there's so many theories that people don't know about. There's so many research papers written, there's so many studies that are just mind blowing. And the general public doesn't really know about them. They're hiding in research papers, they're hiding in academic worlds. But I'm not so sure that, other than like maybe a quick, article here and there on Facebook or somewhere, we don't really get deeper into that kind of knowledge. And this knowledge is so important and so helpful to everybody's lives that the awareness of it actually will help you make better decisions in your everyday life. So that's what really struck me. I'm sitting there in my lecture hall and I'm thinking, wait a second, like why did I never know about this, whatever they were talking about now? How am I just finding out about this? And I'm like, yeah, way over 30. So not 40 yet, but I'm way over 30. So I'm living my life thinking, how could I be so unconscious? And especially that I was studying the law of attraction and the spiritual laws and all the stuff that we talk about in the spiritual community. I've studied that first. I actually studied psychic abilities with a psychic, local psychic, for 3 years. And the thing is, I went to university for social psychology, and I thought, my goodness, I'm missing a lot of information that really will help me out. So, and help everybody out. So this is why I wanted to share it with the world. That's why I thought to put it in the book, and it will be ready soon for everyone to read it. But until then, there's so many other resources, and right now we'll just cover some of the basics. So
And
stick
Nika, let me
around.
just say, it's very, to me, it's very interesting that, I mean, you have been in Poland, you've been to another country, now you're in the United States, and I
Canada.
grew up in the, you're
I
in
love the States,
Toronto,
though. I
yeah.
really love, I do travel to the States. I love all you guys.
Mm,
So hopefully, maybe one day I'll move, but I do love
yeah.
Toronto and Canada as well.
Excellent. Well, my point was that until I
Mhm.
went overseas, I was very American. Americans do it right. Americans do it best. And the American way is the best way. And until I went overseas and lived for 7 years, and I have visited Poland, by the way,
Oh,
I
wow.
was in Europe for those 7 years, actually in Europe for almost 4 years. And it really broadens your horizon, and it really broadens you both mentally, physically, and I think even culturally and spiritually. So it's very profound that even you, with a diverse background, found that you had tremendous gaps in your
Hmm.
knowledge. So even the most traveled of us, the most refined of us, still have to work to find these things, which really are like hidden treasures, aren't they?
They are. They really are. And the key thing to this, because we all know, most people actually, and this is proven, most people have a very positive view of themselves. Yes,
Hmm.
there's a lot of people who are depressed, and there's a lot of people who have a low self esteem. That's very true. But nothing in psychology, just gonna put it out there, nothing actually makes sense. It's things that you will find, like, wait, I didn't would have never thought that would be true. So keep that in mind. There's a lot of inconsistencies and there's still a lot to find out. But most people actually, if you ask them, they have a fairly good view of themselves. And it's a good thing, but that could get in the way of us thinking that we know it all, and we really don't, especially when it comes to time of being distracted. So in our minds, when we are in a distraction mode, so say like you were saying in the stores,
Hmm.
when we see other people panic and we see them grabbing things off the shelves, maybe we came in there with a plan of our own, but the distraction of the whole context will throw us off of our intuition, and it will make us just do the decisions that we maybe wouldn't have made normally. So that is the thing. So we do have a very positive view of ourselves. We think we know everything. We think we're pretty discerning when it comes to our environment, and really we're kind of like that teenager still, that, yes mom, I know not to talk to strangers, and yes, I know not to take candy from, whoever. But then when we're outside and we're, say, at a party, or we're with other people, or we're distracted, we may be in a mood of some sort, all of those things affect how we connect to that knowledge base and that intuition, that common sense that we thought we have. And then we have people doing things that they later like, I don't know why I did this. I don't know why I fell for this scam. Like, how did I not know this? And and it's, we have smart people, we have educated people who are falling for scams, and then realizing, wait, like me, like how did I even fall for that? So that's when we fall short. And
Nika,
my
let me
mom.
ask you a question.
Mhm.
Why do you think not only smart people, but it seems even more so, or at least as equally prone in the spiritual realm, that we fall for scams, we fall for the gurus, we fall for the teachers, we fall for the newest thing, and it's
Mm.
almost like we're afraid or don't trust ourselves? Why even? I don't know if there's a psychological reason, but even spiritual people still don't want to trust themselves. They want to find that guru.
um that is, again, something that I've been studying a lot, because I've been looking into different things. Like, I took a course on cults, and that was
Ooh.
probably, yeah, that was probably my favorite one out of the religious studies. It was just amazing. I've been looking into multi-level marketing companies. I've been looking at different consistencies and how these things kind of get people and catch them out of their, their intuition, and, and
Mhm.
and puts them into something different. So why that happens to us, because that happened to me, I'm an example of that. And I realized I have this nice way of explaining it. So we've taken that escalator up, we've taken those steps, we've kind of built these stairs for ourselves to attainment of the spiritual levels. But we've forgotten something, like that basic thing, that automatic processes of our minds, which we
Mm.
now have to go back down and start paving those steps with a nice marble and a nice quartz. And that's how I see it. So we took the ladder up, we built it up, we rushed up there, but now you realize, wait a second, these stairs are like kind of falling, this step is falling apart and this one's breaking. I need to go back and I need to pave them nicely, and I need to put a nice crystal quartz all over that, and and pave those steps back up again to
Sooner
fill
or
in
later,
those
we've got to
spaces.
fix those problems in our mind, don't we?
The basics, the
Yes.
basic. We forgot the basics. We went for like that Mercedes, right away, and we forgot that. Wait a second, like maybe I don't really have the credit for that, so now I got to go back and you know, build up or pay off that credit. And that's how I see the social psychology. Even though it's so basic, we have to go back and learn it. So I would like to show you something very interesting. So
Please.
let's say spiritual people, all of us spiritual. I think everybody's spiritual, actually. Maybe we're kind of wrong in saying that
Hmm.
everybody has to be spiritual. Maybe they just, they're not connected to it to a certain degree. But the people that have been studying all these higher principles, and say now that person, if there is over a 60% chance that that type of person, say they go into a study, you're called into a study, hey, come, to our university, would you like to be part of this study? So
Hmm.
now we'll take the Milgram shock experiment, for example, which is the most popular, very, very controversial study, so it won't be repeated anymore because it's ethical problems. But it was done, I don't remember when, I think in the 60s or so, years ago. So we're taking all our spiritual people, we're asking them to do this Milgram shock experiment. Now, for those who don't know, Milgram was a scientist, and he did this experiment where he took people, and they were participants, and he told them, listen, I have this study I'm doing. Here's this machine, and here's this guy in a white lab coat, and he's going to tell you what to do. He's just going to read you off some letters, some words, and you have to make sure that the person on the other end is answering correctly. So if that person on the other end who you don't see, so you're this participant, you have this machine in front of you, and another person in another room. You don't see them. You don't know who they are. You have no clue. You just hear their voice. And every time they answer incorrectly your question, you are supposed to send a mild shock, which apparently shocks their body with like a little zap, right? So,
Oh my.
so now say you answer the wrong answer. You say banana instead of apple, whatever. And now I'm supposed to shock you. So then the person's like, okay, well, they're wrong. They're looking at the researcher who's sitting there in the white lab coat, looking very serious. You know, he's the expert. He's the authority in the room. It's like, yep, continue. And you're like, wait, but I'm like shocking that person. Yeah, it's okay, shock them. So then next time they get the answer wrong, you give them a bigger shock. And each time the shock gets bigger, where it gets to the level, apparently, because this is all staged, but you don't know that.
Right.
It gets, sorry if I'm making it confusing.
No, I get it. I'm asking questions of you. I don't know you. I don't see you. You're in another room. And if I ask a question that you don't get the answer right to, I have to shock you.
Right.
And each time you miss it, the shock gets worse and worse.
It gets bigger, where on this scale in front of you, it actually says danger shock.
Oh no.
So it's a scale. So mild shock, danger, where it could potentially, cause harm to the person. So you're getting to that danger zone, and you keep looking at the experimenter who's sitting there very calmly at his desk. He's just kind of supervising you. He's got his white lab coat. Now, at this point, you are not sure who he is. You have probably not asked him for his credentials. You don't know if he's an experimenter, he's an actor. Who is he? You're so immersed in this situation, the emotional state that you're in, the context, the authority of the person who you think might be mad at you if you stop. Now, keep in mind, you're free to walk at any time. You could just get up and leave, and you can say, I'm not doing this. I'm getting up. I'm sorry about your experiment, but I gotta go. So guess what? Over 60% of people stayed and administered the almost lethal shock to the person at the other end, which there was no person, by the way. That was just like a voice recording, but you were made think that was a person. So it was extremely a traumatic experience to the participants of this study, over 60% of them, because when they left finally, and they left the experiment and they went home, and they were depressed now, because they're like, my goodness, what did I do? I just endangered that person. And
even though it wasn't really a person there was no one there.
Right, but that person was under the impression that they were influenced by someone else who just kept telling them, no, continue, that they allowed themselves to freely, and they started questioning their own morality. They started questioning, am I an evil person that I was able to just hurt another person just because someone else told me to? So, and this study was actually done because it was after the war, and people were questioning, like, oh my goodness, like, how could all these Nazi soldiers who worked for the German army and stuff like that, how could they have done and followed orders that were so horrific? And other people, right? Not just German soldiers, but there's so many situations in the world where there are soldiers that have to, kill someone or blow up something, and they may not feel very good inside about doing it, and they may not have done that if it was their own choice, but because of the authority, because of the context, the emotional state that's going on, their perception of everything, all of that comes together to overpower their intuition, overpower their morality and who they really are. And they're like in this hypnosis, right? And then when they come out of that, they're like, that wasn't me. And that wasn't like, I would have never done that if it wasn't for someone telling me, or that's my job. That's the job I do. And so then cognitive dissonance comes in. And cognitive dissonance is what helps people resolve these types of things. So say if I go into the store right now, I just need some bread, and I see everybody maybe jumping on the new batch of toilet paper that was just put on the shelves. If I jump in there and start, climbing over, what was it, George Costanza, I think. Yeah, it was a sign. If I do the Seinfeld George Costanza, who ran when it was a fire alarm, he ran.
Push an old lady out of the way.
Right, he pushed the children out of the way.
Yep.
So if I go do that and grab that toilet paper, and then I get home, I may think, my goodness, am I a terrible person? And then my process of cognitive dissonance will come in, and it will make me pick a choice. So now my brain has a choice. My emotions have a choice to pick whether I resolve this by saying, yes, I am a terrible person, I just accept it. Or most people will go for the choice of saying, giving the excuse. So they're going to say, well, they made me do it, or my mother made me do it. She told me, go get it. Or
so we choose to be victims.
Situation made me do it, right? So your cognitive dissonance automatically wants to resolve, because we are people that like everyone, most humans like consistency. So we like to have our emotions and our thoughts match our behaviors. So when they don't match our behaviors, or even someone calls us out on it, we automatically have a choice, either to resolve it by admitting to it and just going with it, living with that, or resolving it by going for the excuse, which is like that external thing that made us do it. So that's kind of how we work.
Can I ask a question and just share
Please
something
do.
with you real quickly? When you were saying that, I had to ask, and I'm just going to put it in terms of you and I had to ask you a question. And if you didn't get the answer right, then I had to shock you.
Mm-hmm.
What I wrote down was the thing that goes off in my mind. Maybe this, I don't know what this makes me. Maybe you can give me some analysis online, but I wrote down, I need to learn to ask better questions so people can get the answers right more easily. And if you take that to yourself, I believe that the questions we ask ourselves determine the quality of our life. Instead of asking, why am I so fat? I could ask, how could I lose more weight and get to my ideal weight? So, and I'll share my story after you answer, kind of deal with what I just said. What do you think about that?
Well, I definitely subscribe to the thought that, positive thinking does have its huge benefits, and it's a motivator. And so if you think, oh my, why am I fat? Well, it's the ingredients in the food today. It's the lifestyle. It's, oh, I don't have time. I'm working. So you automatically are looking for all these reasons. But if we do ask ourselves better questions, and more yet, ask yourself, why do you think what you think? And this is what one of my professors taught me when we were writing research papers. And he said, always, when you're writing the research paper, and this is something we could apply to this, to our minds, to how we operate and how we think, ask yourself, okay, let's use this overweight example. So if I'm overweight, I should be asking, why am I overweight? Okay, well, it may be the food ingredients. Okay, so why am I choosing these food ingredients? Well, maybe because it's easy to do. Well, why am I not choosing the ones? Well, maybe the next time I'll stop at this store and not that store. And, maybe I'll stop at, I don't know, natural food store rather than McDonald's next time. Why am I taking that route to work then, if I keep stopping at that McDonald's? So just keep going with the questions.
Can I ask you another question?
Mm-hmm.
See, I like to say these things and I believe they're true, but I don't have the psychology background that you do. In my
Mm-hmm.
mind, I'm thinking, if I ask why am I fat, my mind doesn't know if that's a good question or bad question. It doesn't care. It'll give me all the reasons why I'm fat. Boom, boom,
Yeah.
boom, boom, boom. And then I have nothing but reasons why I'm fat. But if I ask myself, how can I reach my ideal weight? Now my brain fires off all these things that I can do, like don't stop at McDonald's, eat better food, and it gives me actually good data that I can work. Is that psychologically sound, or am I just making stuff up?
That is more spiritually sound for sure.
Okay,
um, because there's a balance of both, right? So if definitely it's always best to choose the positive rather than the negative thought,
gotcha.
and because that will keep you focused on the solution and not the problem. And the solution is what you really want to do. You don't want to keep digging in the problem as much as you would rather find the solution, right? So
Mhm.
thinking that how can I achieve a better body image, or how can I achieve more money. We can't keep thinking, well, what do I well, we need to sort of have had find that balance. I say balance is the key, because
Yep.
a lot of people say when you're higher in this realm where you don't really have too many, when you've resolved a lot of your cognitive dissonance, when you've resolved a lot of your emotional issues, you could keep focusing on the positive. But what I've noticed with people who are really trying to just positive, 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 that's all I care. No, no, don't say that to me, because that's negative. You're a negative person. A lot of times what will happen with the person who actually hasn't resolved a lot of their emotional issue, just maybe they're just getting into this self-help thing, and they could fall into that false positivity, right, where they will just be
Right.
cognitive dissonance all over the place, right? And they
Yeah.
really won't be able to identify what it is that is causing them to continue doing that thing. So
Nika,
when
do you
they
think a lot of times it might have to do with just I don't know if it's victimism, I don't know if it's ego, but like a situation happened fairly recently with me. I'm not the most technical guy, so I'm working on my computer. I'm trying to get something done that I got to get done, and I asked for some help for what I thought was very basic help. And the person I asked help for is like, well, was asking me why, why do you need this? What are you trying to do? And for me, I've got to be focused. And I said something like, why do I have to answer so many questions? And then the person that I said that to, obviously got their feelings hurt that I had asked them that question that way. And so then they responded in a way that was unlike them. And me, I can say, oh, I have a choice right then. I can say, oh, well, they responded in a way that was not nice, a way that wasn't mean, and I can be the winner. They did something bad. Or I can go back to the beginning and say, even though I had a
Mhm.
good reason for being short, I did say something to them that was inappropriate. And I said something I shouldn't have said. Why do you have to ask me so many questions? So we have to take responsibility if we ever want to get to
Right.
a real solution. But it's easy to be the
Exactly.
victim. Oh, it was him. He's the one that got upset. No,
Hmm.
it was him. He's the one that said, why you asking me
Hmm.
so many questions when you should have just said thank you?
Exactly. I wrote something down about that, and I really hope that would really answer the question. I tried to prepare for it today, so
You're doing great.
we
This is
really
very
did
fascinating.
this spur of the moment thing. But um, so basically, so yeah, so you've responded just kind of out of like an agitation of not being able to, just like, just do this for me, like you're here to do this for me. He was trying to get more information out of you, and he was irritated and you were irritated, because I mean the context made you both irritated, right?
Right.
But if I was a real true, like, I'm not a doctor, let's put it that way. I'm a social psychologist, but I don't have a doctor degree. So let's just get that straight. But if you were to say go for therapy with this question, then they would try to bring that back to as far in your past as possible. So Why did you respond? Maybe that's just the way you used to respond, say, to your parents when they kept explaining to you how to do something, and you just, when they told you, no, sweep this way, and then you just kind of swept all over the place, and you got irritated because they're telling you how to sweep, right?
Yeah.
So that, in real psychology, they usually bring things back to the childhood, and it's so crazy how many things actually are rooted in the childhood. So your response, his response, could have been fueled by the context, but the emotion that was triggered within very deeply, which caused your response and his response, was rooted from something very far in the past that just never got resolved. And there's so many little things. If we were really to
Right.
kind of like decompartmentalize our whole being, it's just too much to handle, right? Which is why our minds are designed to be the most efficient. And especially even with your situation too, you're designed to be most efficient, so you wanted the most efficient answer at that moment. And he wanted to be most efficient and quicker too, to get the thing done as fast as possible. And he could have had this expert aura where, like, if he knows what he's doing, and he knows why he's asking you these questions, because maybe they're just crucial to what he's doing.
Right.
Right. So his expert, kind of like, okay, when you go to the doctor, and I keep asking a lot of questions, like, and then they always say, are you the doctor, or maybe you know better? Maybe you know better. I don't know. Tell me then, right? So, my doctor actually recently responded that way, because I'm always like, well, what about this? What do I know this about that, and I know that about that, and why are you asking me this? And the doctor's like, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. I have no place here then. So I think it's like when somebody's an expert in something, and then they just kind of, that expert aura kicks in, and that irritation will come out, right? So there's many deep reasons for that. But it's always the power of the situation is huge. Power of the situation is just unbelievable, and there's always that dilemma of that battle in the academic communities between that nature and nurture, between
Right.
how much is the biology, and how much is your parents teaching you something, or your experiences from your childhood, or just all these social experiences that you've been exposed to throughout your life.
Right. So nature would mean you're just born that way. That's biology. Nurture would mean it's learned behavior from all of your experiences, right?
Yes. So there's a huge, huge battle back and forth always. Okay, is it socialization that causes people to say, be oh, I have a good one. So is it socialization that causes people to be aggressive? So say people who are prone to end up in jail, prone to maybe aggressive behavior, or something like that. Or is it their genes? And it's funny because
Ooh.
my grandma's 89, and her whole life she keeps saying, yep, that's their genes. Oh yeah, they were born like this, that. And I'm like, Grandma, I don't know. I think that maybe where they grew up, it might have kind of caused that. No, 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 it's their genes, it's their genes. So
Yeah, that can
so
get really deep when you start assigning those to like racial groups. Then you really get yourself in trouble.
yes. So from my experience in all those studies and reading all those papers, that it really is like a balance of almost half half. It just depends on the
Hmm.
situation, how much is genes and how much is your learning, your social learning. So there is a study that was done, and this one is a really good study because it was done over like the time of 20 years at least. It took these researchers, they had to continue. It's a longitudinal study, so it took a very long time because they had to follow up with the original participants like 20 years later. So
Wow.
what they did was they found that there is a gene that causes people to be more prone to aggression, which has something to do with an overactive amygdala, or some region in the brain that
The
will just,
reptilian cortex.
yeah. So what they found, and this is really profound actually, and this is how psychology really ties into spirituality. So they found, yes, there's people that are born with this kind of a gene, that their, area of the brain is too overactive. And if so they studied these children, and then they followed up with these so no, sorry, they had a part of the, because they always do parts, they have participants and they divide them into groups. So
Mm-hmm.
then the one group of these children, the parents were specifically instructed that they have to use love with these children. They have to be very nice. They have to, whenever the child overacts, they have to tell them, calm them down, and tell them they're loved, and just try to talk to them, rather than saying, you're so bad and you're a terrible kid, and oh my god, look at what you did again, you're terrible, you're giving mommy so much problems, or whatever. So when we keep telling people these kind of negative things, and that goes back to negativity versus positive, the victim and the victor mentality. When these parents were instructed to specifically keep preaching love to these children and keep being very calm with them, 20 years later, when they revisited these same people, the researchers actually found, the results were found, that the children that were treated this way were less likely to end up in youth, incarceration, and in trouble and going to jail.
Interesting.
And the age for that, like, to be the most prone, is the teenage years. So they found that, like, after 20 years of age, 24 or so, that kind of stabilizes, and people get a little, more calm. And so, like, those people specifically with that overactive gene. And they found that those ones that were treated by their parents with that kind of a love method and the calmness, and all that, they were actually way better off, and they were way less likely to end up in trouble later on in their life. So that just shows that, yes, positivity totally works, but we have to understand how it works, because, if these parents, like, they had to catch them early too, so
Right.
you had to catch the early, and then, the longer you wait, the harder it is to fix that, because then you're shaping the mind, right? So they were kind of shaping the mind of these children, and so kind of they were able to change the genes, right?
Right.
So
And Nika, wouldn't that work with our self-talk and the way we deal with ourselves as well?
it totally does. And we've seen so much evidence that, genes can be altered, even with our own power, our own mind, right? Like, for example, I used to be very shy. I used to be a shy kid. And my grandma kept telling me, don't ever, don't think positive, don't ever be afraid of anything, and don't ever be shy. And so she kept kind of pounding that into my head, and I kept repeating it to myself. So
Right.
I just kept reminding myself of that. And now, I mean, yeah, I'm still, like, shy in some, some situations, but I've gotten over that so much, just because I kept repeating that to myself, because I admired her, and she told me to do that, and I say, you know what, I'm just gonna trust it, I'm gonna keep doing it no matter what. And I have changed, and now I'm very outgoing. I go up there, I go up to people I don't know with no problem, and I'm quite social. So it has changed me, and that's only because I think, if that didn't happen, if I didn't continue just thinking that, consciously reminding myself to think in a positive way, and not to be afraid, and not to be scared of anything, and that I have power within me, and that really, really helped me transform many things in my life. So
Interesting.
personally, yes, I totally agree with that. We have to always choose love over anything else, and we have to always choose positivity over anything else, unless it's not realistic. So one thing that I've learned in the stock
Ooh, but
market,
can I
and
ask, can I interject
yeah,
real quick?
yeah, please do.
Is it, the thing is, that part about realistic, and as you said that, something came into my mind. It's a really weird story, but I was living in Lake Tahoe, California. I was doing really good selling timeshare. So we joined this hockey league. I played goalie. My son played on the team. And I sponsored the team. So we had our own team. But it was late in the season was almost ready to start. So all of the quote unquote good players had already been selected. So we went in and we just said we were going to be like the bad news bears. We're the bad guys. We're we were the rough and tumble. We put advertising out and we picked only from the bad players. It was the players nobody else wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And we got these players in a room and I said, hey, we're going to do this. We're going to win. We're going to play and we went out and we had 12 games. We won all 12 games.
Mm-hmm.
We won the championship with the players that nobody else wanted. It was tough, Nika, because they were so good. They would go out and score like 12 goals in the first period. And then there was only 6 of us. So they got so tired. I would have to try for the next 2 periods to make sure the other team didn't get to 13. So we had a lot of games. We won 13-12, 11-10, but we won 12 of them, even with what looked like the worst team. And it was unrealistic to think that we could win, but we did.
Yeah, and that reminds me, and here is where we really can't forget about how energy works too, right? Because it's so complicated to be a human, I tell you. That's why I said there's just no rule to so much of this, right? It reminds me of what you're saying of the Raptors winning.
Right, the Toronto
Nobody
basketball team.
expected them, right? But I think where the energy came together, where Toronto has become very, I would say, very united lately, and there's been more of that positivity and pride, and even though there's a lot of, there's a rise in youth crime, but actually other than that, it's a very positive place to be, and everybody seems to be very mindful, and they seem to be thinking more deeply these days. And I'm overhearing different conversations at restaurants, people in suits are discussing aliens, and I'm just like, cool. So I think that the energy came together where everybody was just like, you know what, it's now or never.
Right.
We have to support these guys, and then the team kind of came together, and the decisions started being made, and somehow miraculously one
And
after
Nika,
another.
you win 1 game and like, well, maybe we can. You win 2 games. You're like, oh, you win 3 games, then you've won 4 games. You're like, damn, we can do this. No problem. And
Yes.
it's like that in our lives, I think. Just find a way to get one little win and then get another little win and another little win. Just keep building on your wins. And it's, Rocky Balboa, since we're going to talk about great American philosophers, Rocky Balboa, Rocky, he says, it's not the amount of times you get knocked down, it's the amount of times you get back up. That's true,
totally,
isn't it?
That's totally true. You always have to keep getting back up, and knowing that you have life lessons to learn. And sometimes people put themselves into different paths, just to even hard paths, just to learn these lessons.
Yeah.
So it's really hard to judge that. But the positivity is always the choice that you have to make if you have, that ability, and even if you don't, just think positive no matter what. But again, like for example, I'm going off topic, but it's so
That's
many
all right.
things. We need more shows, okay? We need.
We do.
This is just the beginning, because I have like a list of things I wanted to talk about, and we haven't covered. Yeah.
Well, we've got pick one that we can talk about for about 15 minutes, because that's about what we have left.
Yes. So I was gonna talk about that positive, the result, the impossible result. It escaped me. Sorry, everyone. It's a little bit chaotic, but anyways, I think that I need to remember, because it was important. It was about the Raptors. It was about the impossible wins. You know what? Forget it.
Okay. But I mean, if people are sitting there right now and they have behaviors in their life, they have patterns in their life that they don't like, they've got things that they've wanted to do and haven't been able to do them, what would you give them if you're sitting across, having a coffee, offering them the wealth of your years of both academic experience, but also real world experience?
So to those who have like keep struggling and it's just not working, and
Right.
say like the law of attraction just doesn't work. Oh, I know it. You're reading my mind. So there was the thing with the law of attraction that I've noticed is you do have to be able to feel the possibility, because if you don't feel something is possible and you don't have that like experience of that feeling, like say if you've never like I don't know, let's take a teenager that just getting into, you know, the dating world, and
Right.
they don't know what it's like to have a boyfriend or girlfriend. How can they, I mean, they'll attract it, but it's harder for them to think positive about attracting, say, a new boyfriend or girlfriend, and oh my goodness, all my classmates have a boyfriend but now but I don't yet, and you know. So, and it's hard for that person to imagine and feel what it's like to have that it's a that it's even possible. So
Mm.
say like me feeling I've never won the lottery, so I'm thinking like, well, is it really possible for that? I go to play it, but I'm like, yeah, you know, within me, really, I could think positive. Yes, I'm going. Okay, give me the quick pick right now, or I'll select my numbers. Possible, totally. I'm gonna win. I'm gonna win, which is why I'm paying that $5 for the ticket, right? But deep within me, I just don't think it's possible. I don't think the odds are, you know, in
Right.
my favor. I don't think so. That underlying vibe that I have within me about winning the lottery is just getting in the way of it's like that block of that energy, and as soon as we can get rid of it somehow, as soon as we can maybe get a little taste, you know. So here, if I now if I'll win maybe $5, that will elevate my energy. Now like, oh wait, that's what it feels like. Hey, it is, but I want $5. Hey, cool, you know. So now I feel like it's a little bit more possible. Now I'm elevating myself into that energy of winning, but you got to maintain it. So now
Right.
how do I maintain that? How do I keep feeling that? So I came up with this idea, and I might start that as soon as I have group sessions. I haven't had yet like teaching sessions. So
Mm.
when I have group sessions, this is what I came up with. And anybody can steal this idea, please do. I thought that this would be a cool experiment. If you have like a group
You're not
session
going
where
to shock people, are you?
no, no, no. I'm gonna shock them with something positive. So I would have, and this can be really cool for teachers if somebody's a teacher, you know, to get kids into this kind of a vibe. Have little contests all the time. You know how a lot of people say, "Oh, I'd rather have like 100 people win like $100,000 than one person win like $100 million," right? You know what I mean? So if you have like a classroom, every like say half an hour or every so often, do a little draw for something. A candy bar could be the winning prize, or something very simple, you know, a bag of chips, whatever. But get people into that mind state, that feeling of being able to win. And then when the more often they get into that mind state and that feeling of breaking that resistance of, you know, thinking, oh, I don't have the chance to win, I never win, whatever. And you break that, it'll be more easier for you to continue elevating that. So continue that momentum. Momentum is the key. So
You want
I
to hear
thought
something
that would be
fascinating, Nika?
yeah.
Now, whatever you think about this person, it doesn't matter. But we're talking about methodology. Um, L. Ron Hubbard came
Yeah.
up with a methodology of teaching, and weird things happen. I was taking some courses through the Church of Scientology, which I don't recommend, but they
Yeah.
have a fascinating teaching philosophy where, and at first it irritated me, but now I see what they were doing. You read through maybe 2 pages, there's a little test. And the person has to come over and do the test with you. There's 2 questions. Oh, Jeff, you got that right. Congratulations. You got that
Hmm.
right. Way to go. Would you like a candy? Would you like a cracker? Would you like a little eraser? Would you like a pencil? So they catch you doing things right incrementally, and it starts building that winner momentum in you, whether you
Right.
know it or not.
Wow. So I didn't read any of his work. And you know, I say there's probably jewels in a lot of things. It's just
Absolutely.
a lot of things that seem negative right now have been skewed and have been
Mhm.
hijacked and so on. But there's a lot of you know, valuable knowledge that can be taken even from that
And I'm going to use that.
set
Thanks
of
for
books.
reminding me. I'm going to start trying to incorporate that I mean, here I could
Ooh,
do, usually
yeah,
we talk to the chat room at the very end. Maybe we stop every 15 minutes and Brenda, that's a great comment you just made. Very, very interesting.
yeah.
Nika, great question. Thank you maybe it can keep some momentum and keep people engaged.
Right. Yeah.
Thank you.
Just to keep that break that barrier that makes us think that it's not possible, because
Right.
I found that's probably, and I the way I've learned about law of attraction, how to apply it. Now we're kind of getting off the psychology into law of attraction, but that's okay. Uh, the mind is very powerful, right? I have been very lucky in implementing that in parking. Okay, so I used to
In
work.
parking.
Yeah, I used to work seasonal jobs at the mall. I used to sell fragrances, high-end fragrances. It's a seasonal, just like because a lot of my friends work there, and it was
Mhm.
fun. And I thought, why not? Okay, so I used to do that. And the seasons were usually Christmas time, where the mall is packed and there is no parking at all, especially for employees. You're circling around. You come to work and you're circling and trying to fight for, get in that space before someone else does, and it's just chaos in the parking lot. So a lot of my coworkers used to always say, oh my goodness, I had to circle around. And I'm like, I get the first parking spot as soon as I drive in. And it's so interesting that even sometimes I'll drive into the mall parking lot and someone is pulling out of the first spot right by the door as soon as I drive up there. And this kept happening so often that I thought, that's insane. I need to apply this to winning the lottery somehow, because um I'm getting the parking spaces, and in the midst of the biggest chaos in the parking lot during Christmas season, I got the best
So,
parking
Nika,
every
you don't
single
think that's
time.
just coincidence? You think
No,
your positive manifestation
yeah,
wow,
yeah,
powerful.
because I had zero resistance to my ability to finding a parking space. I drive to work, not now, obviously, I don't work now there, but I used to drive to work and have zero thought about, oh, where am I going to park? Oh, there's going to be no parking. And say, like my mom always says, she's like, oh, I'm not going to the mall today because the parking is going to be crazy. So now she's making her decision based on, oh, I won't go shopping today because of the parking lot situation. But I say, I don't care about the parking situation. Maybe there's something waiting for me at the mall and I got to go there, and I don't care. I'll find the parking.
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
who taught me that is, I when I used to watch the law of attraction videos, and actually Esther Hicks said this, that when she was out for dinner with, I think it was Louise Hay or someone, and they parked her beautiful whatever car she had, and then Esther Hicks said to her, aren't you worried that somebody's going to scratch this beautiful car here? And then the other lady said, I'm not worried for a single moment, because I know that my car is well. I'm not worried about that. So again, not to get into being stupid, right? Not to be foolish and
Right.
say leave your door unlocked at night or something like that. But when it comes to things like this, from the parking spot, I kept attracting that. Now I'm trying to see, how do I take that pattern and that
Ooh.
vibe within me, how do I now apply that somewhere else? And I'm trying to break other barriers. So now I'm trying to break other more important barriers, right? So
Have you had any
um,
successes with that?
yes, I have passed the statistics class, and I'm like a grade 8 math, like a basic math per, And when I
That's
went to
excellent.
yeah, so I did apply it to that, and the situations that happened to allow me to pass the statistics course in the psychology degree, which was my biggest fear. It was probably the reason why I probably would have not even taken this degree, because of the statistics fear. You had to pass it, and I said, there's no way I'm passing that.
Nika, it's so funny. I want to
So
share
I
this with you.
used
This is
law of
hilarious.
attraction because I wanted to have this degree so much. I loved the experience of the university, despite all this, the cons of that. But
Right.
um I used that law of attraction to attract a teacher at a pizza party that I went to that I wasn't going to go to, and just a chain reaction, and then she said, well, you could come to my class, and she was a really good teacher compared to the other ones that I would have gotten for this course, which other people were complaining that they weren't really good at explaining these things. And because I've attracted her, and she told me exactly when she's having her course, and I took that one instead of the harder, I ended up pulling through and getting actually 70 something percent on math. That we underestimate ourselves, and I think this
That's
is very
awesome.
important, where we don't think we can do something, and we automatically exclude it from our life, like me and
Ooh,
math. So I've excluded. I said, I'm not going for that course. I'm not taking that because I'm terrible at math. Just don't talk to me about math. And other than numerology, I that's different a little bit.
so
But
you were limiting yourself.
yeah, and then when I was forced, I had to pass that statistics course in order to not lose thousands of dollars that I've already spent, and not lose a degree, and not lose all that time. I forced the law of attraction to, I kind of forced my way through it, and my positivity towards it has allowed me to do the unthinkable. I've done
That's right.
equations that I never thought I would, like, even,
Mhm. Now, Nika,
so
I always say that there's nothing remarkable inside your comfort zone.
yeah. Yeah, just gotta trust. You gotta put more trust into yourself and your power, to attract the things that you need. But what I would, again, I have to come back to this realistic stuff, right?
Yep.
Because a lot of times people are into law of attraction are said not to be realistic very much, but we are. It's just we have to keep in mind, go with the flow, maintain the flow. So if you feel like there's way too much resistance, say you've signed up to some, I don't know, I'll use the multi-level marketing thing. You've signed up to, be a distributor of a multi-level marketing scheme, and they keep telling you, oh, just keep going, it'll get better, but you feel there's something in you that's like, you know what, I don't know if it'll get better, but you want me to keep paying every month, and you want me to keep recruiting. It's just not, I don't see it getting better. And then, and the trend would tell you, people would tell you, keep going, don't quit, don't be a quitter. But when you feel that you're off track, you need to know when you're off track, and you need to know when something's wrong, and when you're being taken advantage of. And this is when positivity has no place at that moment. But
Right.
you need to be able to discern that. But overall, never step away from positivity, but just know when you are off track, when you're, as you call it, your blink, when you're off your
Yep.
blink, right? So you need to know when that happens. And don't, when you're off your blink, when you feel off, don't keep pushing that positivity, because it's like in the stock market. This is where I learned this, really. When you buy a stock and it's kind of not going the way you thought it would, it's starting to go down. Now you keep thinking, oh, you know what, I'll leave it, it'll probably just get back up soon, it'll get back, oh, I better do the long-term thing, I better wait, oh no, I'll do the Warren Buffett thing, I'll just be a long-term investor now that my stock is down 20%. No, as soon as you cut it, even with a 10%, 20, even sometimes percent loss, it's better than a 50% loss 2 weeks from now or a month from now. So sometimes we need to, they call it stop the bleeding.
Right.
So sometimes we really have to know when your blink is off, when your vibe is telling you run. Don't push the positivity. Then know your balance, know how to balance that.
Absolutely. Now,
I
Nika,
think
I
that's
put
the
in
key
the
thing.
I put in the box below your website, which is nikadomi.com, and I've
Yes.
also linked in your new or linked in your YouTube channel. Where else can people get information about you and avail themselves of your book, or maybe I don't know if you are you going to be offering counseling services and things of that nature?
Yeah, so I'm just getting started. I literally just graduated. I spent 10 years in the commission sales business, so I actually know all the behaviors that, people out there present out to the world. So the best way to contact me is go on my website, nikadomi.com, and there you will find all the links to my Instagram, my Twitter, my Facebook. I use Instagram the most. So find me at Nika Domi on Instagram. And probably Instagram would be the best. And I'm trying to get Jeffrey to hype up his
We're gonna do
Instagram.
it.
So let's help him. Everybody go and follow him. Okay, follow him on Instagram so he can keep spreading this amazing message, because he's right on track and we have to help him. And I've been wanting to really help him. So I've been sometimes posting on my Instagram when he's going live. I'll post like Jeffrey's going live. Anybody, who's interested, just go and watch. And so let's all try to help Jeffrey get more out there, because his message is just amazing and he's right on track with so many things. It's unbelievable. So I salute you, Jeffrey, and I really, really thank you for bringing me on your show. It's like you say that you got to, you were dreaming of being on Coast to Coast for so long. This is my Coast to Coast.
I appreciate that. And one thing I like about you that I wanted to mention, I'm sure you did it with intention, but when I look at your website and I look at some of your advertising, it's Nika Domi and it's like a wolf. So it's a wolf. You're very powerful. You're going for it, but yet it's a very feminine and classy wolf. It's not it's great imagery.
Yes, or a fox, any of those animals.
Okay.
Because they're smart, right? They're social, they're smart, and they know how to maneuver through their environment very well, right? So we have to maneuver through our environment very well. And I didn't get to talk about all this list of different psychological theories that I was gonna. So you gotta bring me back now.
We
So
will.
You have to. But if I could leave you guys with one very important tip to keep in mind all day long, and that is your automatic processes. Keep in mind and keep a check on your automatic processes. So things that make you emotional, ask yourself, why did that make me mad? Why did that make me emotional? Why did I get offended? Why? Just ask yourself these questions, because your automatic processes will lead you astray, and you need to be conscious of what you're doing at all times. So distraction
very good.
is the one very important thing. As they say, when you're driving, don't be distracted. When you're driving your life, don't be distracted. When you're making important decisions, make sure there is no music playing, make sure there is no other people around you or that could throw you off. Make sure that you're not hungry, you're in a good mood. When you're signing some kind of a big deal, or your papers for something, make sure you're not distracted. Distraction is the biggest thing. So always keep in mind your automatic processes and watch for distraction.
Excellent. She's Nika Domi. You can go to nikadomi.com. You can find her on Instagram under Nika Domi, and you can also connect with her YouTube channel right here in the box below. Make sure you go and subscribe. Nika, it's been great to have you. We'll continue to have you back. I'm looking forward to the next time. And we do salute you that are in the chat room here seeking after truth.
Thank you, everyone. Again, I hope we can be friends.
Absolutely.
And we all need to be friends, because we're all on the same page and we're all fighting the same, for the same world that we want, right?
Absolutely. And for Nika Domi, I'm Jeffey Daugherty, saluting you for being here, seeking after truth. Thanks so much and have a great day.
Thank you. Bye.